Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anne Nwawado from Lagos, Nigeria. Here's what's coming up on the world today. India's Chandrayaan 3 becomes the first space mission to land near the moon's south pole. 17 people die after a railway bridge still under construction collapses, also in India. Plus, wildfires still raging in Europe as the continent experiences its fourth heat wave. Once again, welcome. India could not be more proud of its government and its people as the country's Chandrayaan 3 became the first space mission to land near the South Pole on the moon. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also announced earlier today that India is now on the moon. He is attending the Brics summit in South Africa. Described as a massive moment for the country, this was India's second attempt at landing on the moon. It now joins 3 other nations, the US, former Soviet Union, and China, who have successfully touched down on the lunar surface. The Chandrayaan 3 landed to the loud applause across the country, especially in the control room, where the director of the mission says the spacecraft's successful landing brought him immense satisfaction. He thanked everyone who had worked on to make India the first country to land near the solar South Pole. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also says the sky is no longer the limit. According to him, the country will always remember those in the control room for this moment. He added that the success of the mission should push Indians towards a brighter future. He lauded India's human-centric approach, saying that one Earth, one family, one future is resonating around the world.
2, 1, 0. Plus 5 seconds.
Lift off normal.
More on today's event. Prime Minister Narendra Modi waved the Indian flag as he watched the landing from South Africa, where he is attending the Brics summit. Scientists and officials clapped, some cheered and hugged each other as a spacecraft landed. And as the government now looks to spur investment in private space launches and related satellite-based businesses, both the US Space Agency, NASA, and the European Space Agency helped ISRO scientists to track the Chandrayaan 3 mission at times when it was out of vision of India's own space tracking station. The heads of both agencies have expressed enthusiastic congratulations on X. The VOA's Anjana Parisha joins us from New Delhi in India. Thank you very much, Anjana, for joining us on The World today.
Hello, how are you?
So it's safe to say congratulations to you all. And this is a great day for India. I mean, could you give us an idea of how celebrations are going? I mean, one can only imagine how excited people are.
Absolutely. You know, the celebrations were huge because India's space mission has always evoked a lot of national pride. In the mission control room, as your report mentioned, scientists were clapping, cheering, and hugging as in the final moments of the descent. For them, it was really a huge moment because an earlier mission to the moon for a similar landing had failed. But outside in the streets, some people danced, some set off firecrackers. WhatsApp groups were buzzing with congratulatory messages and with images of the Indian flag. The atmosphere was really quite electric. Even TV anchors were really excited and flashing headlines like India conquers the moon.
Wow. Now, what does this mean actually for India in terms of development and future investments in the country?
You know, in terms of development, it means India will now be counted among the major space-faring nations, an ambition it has long held. But India achieving a soft landing over.
Now, why the South Pole of the moon? Why that decision to go to the South Pole?
Well, you know, the South Pole, where nobody has previously landed. Other countries, most have sort of gone to the equator where it's easier to land. It's a very rugged terrain. However, it is thought to have large deposits of water ice in its craters. And these will be critical in any future endeavors to set up human settlements on the moon, about which there is a lot of buzz now. You know, exploring the moon has acquired a lot of momentum in recent years as scientists try to determine whether it will be possible to mine Earth's nearest neighbor for minerals and other resources which are now shrinking on the Earth.
And this was India's second or even third attempt. Could you clarify that for us, as there are varying reports suggesting either both attempts? But what does this mean for the country's space program for now?
This was India's second attempt to land on the South Pole. The previous one 4 years ago failed in its final moments. However, it is India's third mission to the moon. The first one did not attempt a landing, but it orbited the moon and collected data. In fact, it helped confirm the evidence, of water on the moon.
Does this benefit the region in any way, not only India?
But I can't say specifically.
Oh, thank you very much. And Jana Pasricha, we couldn't hear you clearly, but we got the message. And thank you so much for your time and contribution on The World Today. Let's stay in India, but this time in the town of Sairang in the state of Mizoram. At least 17 people have been killed, more feared missing after a railway bridge under construction collapsed. The cause of the collapse is still not clear, but the state-run railway authority has opened an investigation into that incident. Emergency workers say they have recorded 17 bodies so far, with many local people helping with rescue efforts. The government has also promised to pay some 200,000 rupees to the next of kin of those who were killed. And from India to Pakistan now, where police say they have arrested the owner of the cable car that had 8 people stranded in it for over 12 hours on Tuesday, and a massive rescue response followed that incident. The arrest is coming after a child who was trapped in the chairlift. He feared it was over during that ordeal. The child was among the group that had been on its way to school when the car's cable snapped.
The incident in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa sparked a massive rescue operation lasting more than 12 hours in the country. The rescue of the individuals in the cable car as delicate and intricate as possible. 6 children aged between 10 and 16 years old were trapped along with 2 adults. The cable car is a popular and cheap mode of transportation to get across the Alai Valley, cutting a 2-hour journey through mountainous terrain to just 4 minutes. When the cable suddenly snapped, the car was making its 5th trip of the day. This video posted on social media captures the moment a child was rescued from the dangling cable car. It was hanging precariously 274 meters above the ground and in high winds. As night fell, rescuers had pulled 5 of the 7 children to safety. Floodlights were installed and a ground-based rescue operation continued. A video shared by a rescue agency official showed more than a dozen rescuers and locals lined up near the edge of the dark ravine, pulling on the cable until a boy attached to it by a harness reached the hillside safely to the cries of "God is great." One of those rescued from the cable car is a 20-year-old man. He later spoke with local media about his experience. He said he was using the lift every day, did not know exactly what happened, but the cable of the car broke off. He said he pleaded that the remaining passengers be rescued quickly. By late evening, 7 children had been pulled to safety.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Caretaker Prime Minister Anwar ul-Haq Kakar said in a post on messaging platform X, all the kids have been successfully and safely rescued. One local Pakistani man became a hero after helping to rescue the children from the cable car. He was surrounded by people and village elders as he gave his account of the rescue operation. According to him, the military became helpless because the people inside the chairlift refused to be harnessed. He said it took almost an hour of convincing. The military also stopped the helicopter over the chairlift and were throwing ropes down to the stranded people. But those people, he says, refused to comply. He said one man tied himself up and was rescued, but others refused, and there was nothing they could do. It remains unclear how the cables of the stranded cable car broke, but this mishap has drawn scrutiny to the makeshift cable car system widely used in Pakistan. In many countries' mountainous regions, makeshift chairlifts and cable cars are used regularly for transportation from one mountain to another.
It's day 2 of the Brics summit in the South African commercial city of Johannesburg, and President Cyril Ramaphosa has told delegates the bloc will continue discussions on the practical use of local currencies to facilitate trade and investment flows. The leaders of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa are all expected to weigh rules for admitting new members to the bloc of developing countries at the summit, even as splits over its future direction has risked undermining its ambition to give the global south more clout in world affairs. President Ramaphosa said that well-functioning payment and banking systems, secure trade flows and the increased use of local currencies in that trade were all necessary for an economic recovery independent of what he called geopolitical contestation.
Excellent. As nations of the world confront the effects of climate change, we must ensure that the transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient future is just, it must be fair, and it must be able to take into account the different circumstances that prevail in all countries. In line with this objective, BRICS nations need to advance the interests of the global south and call for industrialized countries to honor their commitments to support climate actions by developing economic progress. The commitments of support that have been made that have not yet been lived up to needs to be followed through. We're deeply concerned about conflicts across the world that continue to cause a great deal of suffering and hardship to many people around the world. As South Africa, our position remains that diplomacy, dialogue, negotiation, and adherence to the principles of the United Nations Charter are necessary for the peaceful and just resolution of conflicts. We are concerned that global financial and payment systems are increasingly being used as instruments of geopolitical contestation. Global economic recovery relies on predictable global payment systems and the smooth operating of banking, supply chains, trade, tourism, as well as financial flows. We will continue discussions on practical measures to facilitate trade and investment flows through the increased use of local currencies.
And attending this year's summit virtually is Russian President Vladimir Putin, who addressed leaders again today, saying that Moscow will use its chairmanship of BRICS next year to strengthen the group's role in the world, and it will host a summit in the city of Kazan in October 2024. President Putin said that from his office in Moscow, we will promote the further realization of BRICS economic partnership strategy to 2025 and the development of the new long-term cooperation expansion roadmaps. One of them is strengthening the role of our countries in the international currency and fiscal system, development of interbank cooperation, the expansion of national currency usage, and deepening cooperation in taxation, customs, and antitrust activities. Without doubt, one of Russia's priorities is the stepping up of partnerships in science and innovations, healthcare, education, and the development of humanitarian relationships in general. Well, another attraction this year is Chinese President Xi Jinping, who has called for the acceleration of the expansion of the Brics group. Leaders have been weighing rules for admitting new members to the bloc. Heavyweights China and Russia want to reinforce Brics amid heightened tensions resulting from the Ukraine war and Beijing's growing rivalry with Washington. In his address today, Mr. Xi said the bloc needs to give full play to the new development bank of the Brics group and promote the reform of the international financial and monetary system. He also said Brics needs to form an AI governance framework and standard with a broad consensus to virtually and continually improve the safety, reliability, controllability, and the fairness of AI technology. And as for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Brics has his full support for expansion. He told leaders earlier today that India fully supports the expansion of Brics membership and welcomes moving forward on this based on consensus. He also reminded the group that in 2016, during India's presidency, the country had defined Brics as a group building responsive, inclusive, and collective solutions. 7 years later, he says that India can now say that Brics will be breaking barriers, revitalizing economics, inspiring innovation, creating opportunities, and of course, shaping the future.
7 साल बाद हम कह सकते हैं कि Brics will be breaking barriers, revitalizing.
And coming in just a moment after the break, Zimbabweans head to the polls today to vote in elections to decide whether Emerson Mnangagwa continues as president. Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's still the world today. Now let's head back to South Africa, where our bureau chief spoke with political analyst Turkmen Terzi on happenings so far at this year's Brics summit.
I see that still they are bringing, each members are bringing their own agendas to the Brics. I see China is, especially China is very happy. They came to union building as an official visit, and they signed total, I am told, 23 MOUs in the various fields, various sectors, and they signed lots of media interaction, media agreements. Yes, so like China, India, they are, especially these two countries, they are Russia. They are manufacturers and they are looking at new markets. So for them, Africa is very important. But we can't say the same thing for instance, Brazil or for South Africa is also because of the historical past. The majority of South Africans, the business people, are looking at new markets. So for them is a new opportunities. But as I told you, Brics is like not. They have all issues among themselves, like China and India. They have border issues. I used to live in Delhi, so I know that. Also, I used to live in Sri Lanka. So China and India have a big conflict, big competition in that region. But they are looking at new markets. So South Africa is the biggest bright, is the biggest economy in this continent. So yes.
Now we've seen quite a number of countries showing interest, wanting to be a part of Brics or just the new development bank. I know Nigeria is among them. You have Iran as well. You have Egypt and Bangladesh among other countries. Argentina, I think, is part of that too. But I don't think they're all on the same page regarding expansion or who to be admitted. What do you think of that?
Yes, as we started at the beginning, so many countries, especially African countries, they are very much interested in new development bank, and they are asking for better loans with a better condition. Yes, they are not necessarily try to be like a Brics groups, or they are in different pages, as you said. But when it comes to new members, like you mentioned, Iran. Yes, Iran wants to. They are serious. They want to be a Brics member. As a Middle East, they are isolated in the Middle East, so they are very close tie with, especially with Russia and China. But I don't think so Egypt can be a Brics member or Turkey can be a Brics member. Turkish president was here in 2018. He said he want to be a Brics member, but last 4 or 5 months I have been following Brics meetings, but I didn't see a single Turkish diplomat. So I don't think so UAE or Saudi can be a Brics member, because they are very strong ties, especially Turkey, with the West. So their army designed by the NATO or the West. So I don't think so they can be a Brics member. They can be, but maybe like it can be implementing many things, like they are very touched to the West. Things are changing, but still they are very, close with the West.
The Johannesburg Declaration, we understand we'll be hearing that tomorrow. What would you like to see the final agreement here at this summit?
Like in terms of like Africa is also Africa outreach. Lots of African head of states are here and their diplomats here. So declaration should focus on the economic developments and mostly like an economy, not mentioning most of politics like world politics, because you are too far away and you already African countries are already facing the many wars for centuries. So this Brics declaration, Johannesburg Declaration, should focus on, especially on job creation, like not even on the investment, should also focus, investment should generate job creations for African and more opportunities for African countries in business.
From there, we head to Zimbabwe. It's election D-Day, and the main presidential candidate, ZANU-PF's Emmerson Mnangagwa, and the main opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa, have voted. Mr. Chamisa predicts he will win the election, but that the ruling party and the Electoral Commission will seek to deny him his victory.
Zimbabweans are voting in an election that many hope could end a lengthy economic crisis in what was once considered one of Africa's most prosperous countries. Polls opened at 7 a.m. nationwide in Harare and Bulawayo, two major cities in the country. Although it got up to a rocky start, with some polling stations reporting delay due to lack of ballot papers. The Zimbabwean Electoral Commission acknowledged this in a press statement and asked for these stations to take the delays into account, as voters may need more time to exercise their franchise. However, in this polling unit, a voter says the process was good.
My polling station, the process is smooth because there are many polling stations. Before, in 2008, you would have very long queues.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa cast his vote in Kwekwe. He says he's confident he would win the election.
If I think I'm not going to take it, then I'll be foolish. Everyone who contests, if you're going to rest, you're going to rest to win. And precisely is what I'm doing. even the younger generation are very interested to cast their vote, because I've seen in the media that, for the first time we wanted to show that we also have rights to make our decisions. It's very good.
The presidential race is between the current president and ZANU-PF leader Emmerson Mnangagwa and 10 other candidates, including his main challenger, lawyer and pastor Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change, CCC. Some 6.6 million people are registered to vote in a nation of about 15 million. This election is the second contest between the two men after Mr. Mnangagwa won a closely contested poll in 2018, which the opposition alleged was rigged, although the country's constitutional court upheld it.
Well, this month is also election month in Gabon, as President Ali Bongo Ondimba is seeking re-election. His campaigns recently have sought to dispel opposition's claims that he lacks the strength and the track record to fulfill generous electoral promises in the third term. The vote, scheduled for Saturday, August the 26th, is a much-anticipated test of support for Mr. Bongo, with detractors saying that he has done very little to funnel Gabon's oil wealth towards a third of its 2.3 million population living in poverty, and concerns surrounding his fitness to govern after a stroke in 2018. Mr. Bongo's 18 competitors, 6 have backed a joint candidate in an effort to marshal the opposition vote and end his family's 56-year grip on power. His main challenger is Albert Ondo Osa. The 69-year-old economics and management professor was picked by an alliance of 6 main opposition parties as they joined barely 1 week before the vote. 2 wildfires burning near the Greek border in Turkey are still going on, even after 20 bodies were discovered near Athens and the environs region near the border. 18 of those killed are thought to be refugees and migrants who crossed the border recently, hiding in forests north of the city of Alexandroupolis. The country's authorities have expressed deep sorrow over these deaths.
Greece, with civilians and fighters battling the ones in Evra, some 30 kilometers north of Evros. Indeed, those wildfires are still burning with great intensity in Greece, with civilians and fighters battling the ones in Evra, some 30 kilometers northwest of Alexandroupolis, capital of the region of Evros. Hundreds of people have been evacuated across the country since the fires erupted last Saturday, exacerbated by strong winds in this season's second major outbreak. The situation has not been any better in neighboring Turkey. According to the country's Minister of Agriculture and Forestries, Ibrahim Yumalki, the wind speed has exceeded 60 kilometers per hour, and the fire will reach Kanakkale, Turkey, by gaining momentum from the wind's speed. He says firefighters have now prepared a stronger barrier to control the expanding flames. In Albania, the army is helping alongside the firefighters to keep away flames threatening houses. Police showed the video of a man arrested on suspicion of arson. He had been seen starting a fire in Woodland. The defense minister says 50 soldiers have been deployed, but stopping the fire remains a challenge because of the difficult terrain. Italy continues to experience rising temperatures, with authorities saying the country is experiencing a heat wave.
We are staying at the other lake, the Lugano Lake, and we came over for Lago di Como this morning. Of course in the morning, because it's hot in the afternoon. We do the stuff in the morning and we go swimming in the afternoon due to the heat, above 35 degrees. That's pretty hot, but we were expecting it because we were seeing it on the internet in the forecast. I have no idea if it's normal here, but I guess not. But it's warm. But if you're at the lake and you can go swimming, it's pretty much okay.
I am the tourist from London. The weather in this day in London is about 24 to 26 degrees. It's a bit cooler compared to the weather in here. It's about 39 to 40 degrees in here. We were a bit worried about maybe this weather is too hot, but actually this is fantastic. When you are walking around in the shade, it's quite cool. And then when you are at a sunny side, yes, it's a bit hot, but it really looks like I am really in the middle of a summer or holiday areas. Yeah.
Finally, in Spain, Madrid residents cooled off in the city's water fountains as the fourth heat wave of the summer sent temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius. The heat wave set several August records in different cities on Tuesday. The weather agency says it expects the heat wave to last until Thursday, with the whole country under a high or extreme fire risk.
And staying with the weather and its events, Storm Franklin has brought high tides and strong swell to the beaches of Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic capital. The storm is expected to make landfall in the Dominican Republic and in Haiti. It is expected to cause heavy rain, mudslides, and heavy flooding. Authorities in the Dominican Republic closed schools and government offices on Tuesday as Tropical Storm Franklin headed for the island of Hispaniola, which it shares with Haiti. Franklin over the eastern Caribbean and the disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico expected to strengthen over the next days. Let's head to Chile, where rescue workers have evacuated people affected by floods in the central southern region of Maule. At least 2 people died from the flooding, while thousands have already been evacuated or left homeless. In affected areas, rescue workers used boats to help move people in flooded streets where water levels in certain areas had reached rooftops. President Gabriel Boric declared a state of catastrophe on Monday, that's August the 21st, while visiting one of the worst affected areas, some 250 kilometers south of the capital, Santiago. Still ahead on the world today, the United Kingdom conducts its first womb transplant, offering hope for prospective recipients. To bring you this and more when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. So a sad one now, where 15 Mexicans and 1 Venezuelan have died in a road accident in central Mexico. The 52 passengers traveling on the bus on Mexico's highway included 10 passengers from Venezuela, and authorities are saying they had appointments to seek legal entry to the United States. Officials from the state of Puebla said a separate statement some 36 passengers were injured and taken to the hospital after the bus crashed with a trailer in the early hours of the morning. 9 of the injured were Venezuelan, and of those, 3 remain hospitalized, according to the INM, which said support will be given to return the body of the deceased to Venezuela. Hundreds of writers, actors, and other entertainment workers continued their march through the streets of New York on Tuesday, demanding better pay and improved working conditions on National Union Solidarity Day. Footage shows demonstrators waving placards, shouting through megaphones as they marched outside the Manhattan headquarters of Amazon and HBO. The Writers also Guild of America has been on strike since the month of May this year, bringing much of America's entertainment industry to a standstill. The WGA was later joined by the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and other unions collectively representing tens of thousands of entertainment workers. The unions are now demanding higher salaries, improved working conditions, and assurances that artificial intelligence will be limited in the entertainment industry. Guilani, the former attorney for Donald Trump and former New York City mayor, told reporters today that he is headed to Georgia to turn himself in for processing a racketeering charge related to charges he, the former U.S. president, and 17 associates tried to overturn Trump's 2020 election defeat. Guilani built his reputation in New York as a prosecutor who used racketeering charges to target members of organized crime groups. If convicted, those charges carry a minimum penalty of 5 years in prison. The indictment claims that Giuliani and others called officials across state lines to ask them to change the outcome of those states. It also encompasses the events of January 6, 2021 Capitol attack.
Well, I'm going to Georgia, and I'm feeling very, very good about it because I feel like I'm defending the rights of all Americans, as I did so many times as a United States attorney. People like to say I'm different. I'm the same Rudy Giuliani that took down the mafia, that made New York City the safest city in America, reduced crime more than any mayor in the history of any city, anywhere. And I'm fighting for justice. I have been from the first moment. I represented Donald Trump, an innocent man who has now been proven innocent several times. I don't know how many times he has to be proven innocent. They have to be proven to be liars, actually enemies of our republic, who are destroying rights, sacred rights. They're destroying my right to counsel, my right to be a lawyer. They're destroying his right to counsel. It's not accidental that they've indicted all his lawyers. Never heard of that before. In America, all the lawyers indicted. Now, whether you dislike or you like Donald Trump, let me give you a warning. They're going to come for you. When the political winds shift, as they always do, let us pray that Republicans are more honest, more trustworthy, and more American than these people in charge of this government.
Mr. Giuliani joins the other first of Donald Trump's co-defendants in Georgia's criminal case, accusing former U.S. president and his associates of subverting his 2020 election loss, who surrendered at an Atlanta jail on Tuesday. Mr. Trump's former lawyer, John Eastman, and Republican poll watcher Scott Hall both surrendered to the county sheriff's office 2 days before Mr. Trump himself was set to turn himself in to face his fourth criminal indictment this year. Mr. Trump, the front runner for the Republican 2024 White House nomination, has lambasted all the prosecutions as politically motivated and continues to claim falsely that his 2020 loss to Democratic President Joe Biden was the result of fraud. Eastman said in a statement he will surrender the day after agreeing to a $100,000 bond agreement. Mr. Hall, who is a Republican poll watcher in Georgia's Fulton County, was booked by the country's sheriff's office on Tuesday and has not been released. Let's bring you details in the wildfires in Hawaii. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier has outlined the grisly search for the bodies after the fires that devastated the city of Lahaina. He also said a thorough search was being carried out, but some victims had been so badly burned that it was impossible to recover any more than ashes. FBI special agents in charge, Stephen Merrill, said between 1,000 and 1,100 people were still unaccounted for. Authorities have asked relatives of those missing to provide DNA samples to help in the effort to identify the remains found in the rubble. The fires, which started the night of August the 8th, wreaked widespread destruction in Lahaina, the city of about 13,000 people in northwestern Maui, was once a whaling center and the Hawaiian Kingdom's capital. It now draws 2 million tourists a year.
I wanted to bring this map here to show you the area. And the reason this is important is every single structure or area that's been damaged by the fire is being and will be searched for human remains so that we can recover our loved ones. I've said it before, I'm not going to stop saying it. We are going to do this right. We're not going to do it fast. We cannot be in a rush to judgment. We've got one chance. And when this is all said and done, realistically, let's be honest here, we're going to have a number of confirmed, we're going to have a number of presumed. Please understand this. Once the search is done, I can't guarantee, nor can anyone say that we got everybody. We're going to do our darndest to get it right and make every effort to do that. 2,000 people on 9/11 were not recovered. We don't have that type of devastation with the towers like we saw there, but we have an entire town that's destroyed. And we're going to do everything we can, again, to get that right.
A 34-year-old British woman has become the first in the country to receive a womb transplant, a procedure that offers hope for prospective recipients in their hope to bear children. The unnamed woman underwent the transplant in Oxford's Churchill Hospital in February, receiving the organ from her 40-year-old sister. Richard Smith, one of the surgeons in the team of around 20 involved in that operation, said the woman had started having menstrual periods and the prospect of having a baby was high. The world's first uterus transplant took place in Saudi Arabia back in April 2000. It was performed on a 26-year-old woman.
She was absolutely over the moon. There were a lot of tears, a lot of emotion. She was very, very happy. And the donor probably was even happier because she had some time to recover from the anesthesia. So it was a very joyous moment for everybody.
So she's doing really, really well. She has started having menstrual periods, and that means her prospects of having a baby are very high. She needs to stay on immunosuppressive therapy and to be closely monitored, and we hope to be doing an embryo transfer in the autumn.
Since getting diagnosed with cancer and the hysterectomy, the infertility was such a huge part of that, and you grieve, you really do. Being able to carry my own child and have that experience of feeling it, being able to breastfeed, and being able to have a newborn baby at least once.
Well, that's the beauty of technology, giving hope to those who do not have it. But that's it on the program. That's it on the World Today. But just before we go, on a programming note, I would like to inform our viewers that a documentary on the second coronation anniversary of the 21st Olu of Warri Kingdom, His Royal Majesty Ogiame Atuwase III, will come up within the next half hour, and that's 6:30 p.m. on our DSTV channel 420. In the meantime, sports news will come up on top of the hour. Again, a documentary on the second coronation anniversary of the 21st Olu of Warri, His Royal Majesty Ogiame Atuwase III, will come on our DSTV channel at 6:30 p.m. and sports news will come on top of the hour. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu.